Welcome to Postcards to the Universe with Melissa Caprio. Do you believe in magic? What if you were told that all you had to do was get a little creative and work a magic spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Here on Postcards to the Universe, we will share manifesting, tips, postcards, creativity, abundance, and prosperity. Here is your host, Melissa Caprio.
Hello and welcome to Postcards to the Universe with Melissa, creating the life you crave. How is everybody doing? I hope you guys are doing well. It's a little cool here today, so I love when that is the case. I don't know, a lot of you guys are in winter and you're probably like, shut up, but we are in summer all year round, so when I feel a little bit of cool weather, that makes me very happy. Today I have psychic medium Michelle Henderson as my guest, and we are going to focus on, which is really interesting, intuitive and psychic children on today's show. And she's going to join me in just a few minutes. For those of you who are new to my show, welcome. And those of you who listen to me on a regular basis and download the replays, thank you so much for being with me all the time. I am also an author and a photographer, and I have a book, and it's titled Postcards to the Universe, Harness the Universe's Power and Manifest Your Dreams, out there. And I just finished my second book, and I'm in the process of edits right now, so that's a lot of fun, but I'm really excited about that, and you'll hear more about that in the future. But in Postcards to the Universe, Harness the Universe's Power and Manifest Your Dreams, that book, there are 30 manifesting stories in the book, along with the photographs that I took of the contributors' manifesting postcards, and in it, I include writing exercises that help you get clear on what you want to manifest, and a toolbox full of fun exercises on how to manifest love, money, health, career, abundance, and so much more. So if you're interested in doing some inner work exercises and reading people's incredible journeys of transformation, inspiration, and manifesting, please go check out my book at your favorite bookstore or online and purchase a copy. Now, each week, usually on Mondays, I share a magical message, and it's an image of a manifesting postcard that I photograph with an affirmation that I like to focus on for the week. Using affirmations, I have found daily is a very powerful way for it to become a new belief in our lives, and that shifts our vibration. And this week's magical message is new home, new year. Now, there's a saying that home is where the heart is, and this phrase is a way of telling us that home is not necessarily where you have a roof over your head and all the comforts of life, but it's where you feel the most affection and love from and for the people around you. In simplest terms, your home is not just a possession, it is who the loved ones you are fortunate enough to have with you and where your affection lies. And it especially applies when you are going through something and you need your loved ones close by. We all need to feel a place of belonging. And where do you belong? If you feel like you're floating around with no sense of security, you must find a way to, wherever your home may be, having a soft place to fall is so important, especially right now. These last few years have been very difficult. And there have been many losses. Maybe home for you isn't your family of origin, but it's with your close friendships. Wherever your home and heart is, I hope that you have people and animals you love to bring you some joy in your life. This week, I am going to be grateful for what I do have, for who I can count on, and for my safe place to fall, especially in times of struggle and grief. This year, find and make your home somewhere your heart feels full. Make that a priority. We all need that in our lives. And if you want to see my magical messages that I post each week, you can find them across any of my social media platforms, Postcards to the Universe, and also on my website, postcardstotheuniverse.com. And if you happen to be on Facebook and are looking for a group to join to feel inspired and see uplifting stories and images, you can join my public Facebook group that I created during the beginning of the pandemic called Postcards of Love. And it's only inspirational stuff, beautiful pictures, artwork, mostly a lot of animal stuff, because of course I love my animals. So you can always find that on there. Next week, I'm really excited to have my returning guest, Reverend Gregory Possiman, on. Now, Reverend Gregory Possiman is a psychic trance channel, and Gregory channels over 40 light beings, including Sananda, Archangel Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel, as well as master teacher spirits. And I got an email from Gregory, so it's exciting because next week he's going to be channeling Mother Mary, and Mary wants to come through and speak about the feminine infusion of energy into the human race and earth. So it's going to be a really interesting show. So that'll be next week's show, so I hope you guys can join me. All right, to get to my guest today, I'm very excited to have her on. Michelle Henderson is a psychic medium who is passionate about guiding others through their pathway to spiritual insight and growth. Always amazed by what spirit has in store. With each reading, she looks forward to being a part of your journey to help you find hope and inspiration. In her book, Spiritual Nurturing for Intuitive Children, Michelle Henderson offers guidance to all sorts of healers, how to provide parents the tools and knowledge required to fully integrate psychic children into their families. She became passionate about helping intuitive children embrace their gifts, and she also shares her innovative ideas with other light workers, giving them direction about supporting families of intuitive children. And if you can, while you're listening to the show, you can check out her website, which is MichelleHendersonMedium.com. That's Michelle, Michelle, Henderson, Henderson, Medium, Medium.com. Welcome, Michelle. Thanks so much for being here with me today.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. That was such a beautiful introduction. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, everybody is really having a very challenging time right now, and we need to surround ourselves with, wherever we feel at home. We want our soft place to fall, right? Especially in times of loss and grief. So I'm going to let you describe a little bit about you, Michelle, and your background, so for those listening can get an idea of who you are and what inspired you to do the kind of work that you're doing.
Oh, my goodness. But all the inspiration, comes from spirit. Let me tell you that. But just let me tell you, and it's interesting how everybody's stories tend to change around COVID. I think that's when we all got brave and to find our true selves. And we all said, you know what, I'm going to go for it. And that's exactly what I did. So through the years, I knew that I was in tune. I knew that I had the psychic abilities. And the mediumship I had, but I didn't know what it was. And so in my 20s, I had that spiritual awakening, and I thought, okay, something is going on, but I don't know what. So I found a medium who actually helped me through it. And she said, what you're going through is very spiritual. There's nothing wrong with it. And just go ahead and grasp it. Just embrace who you are. And at that time, I wasn't quite ready. I was still in education. I was busy. I was raising children. And being in the Bible Belt in Texas, that was a no-no. That was something that you did not talk about.
Right.
And so I closed that door. And then about when COVID came, I told my husband, I said, I need to get out there. I need to show people who I truly am so that I can help others do the same thing. And he said, Michelle, I think you're right. I think it's time. So I think Spirit usually has a time that says, okay, it is time for you to come out. So I opened that door, and this was during COVID. And I took as many classes as I could to strengthen my tools. And in April of this last year, I had an awakening saying, I need to write this book for children. I've been in education for 30 years, and I felt like it was time because everybody I met that was in the spiritual business said that their parents did not understand what they were going through. And so they just shut the door and didn't want anything to do with it until they were 50 plus. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what could we do to help these kiddos? And so I wrote it from an educator point of view so that we can help the parents and the families embrace it. I know that's a lot.
No, that's perfect. No, that's great. Do you recall if you had psychic abilities when you were a young child? Did you, like, if you're looking back, do you think you had it and maybe you had to shut it down because of where where you grew up and everything?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So I could be in tune with my friends, and I knew exactly sometimes what they were thinking. And at first, I thought it was completely normal. And when I started telling my friends, they kind of looked at me like, "No, that's not normal." And I'm going, "Oh, well, I thought it was," but I could feel energies in the room, and I didn't know what the energy was. And of course, it was spirit, and I would talk to them, and I never could actually see them. And I think that's why I became afraid, is because I could feel them, but I didn't know what to do with it. And I always knew what I needed to do with my life, and if I could trust somebody or not trust somebody. I was an empath child. I cried all the time, because I picked up those feelings from school, from all my peers and everything, and I'd come home exhausted. My family, whenever I would tell them that I could feel presence, in the room, they became afraid. I know that my mother, is very in tune as well, and she to this day is still afraid of it. And I think it's just something that we're ingrained and we're programmed to be afraid of. Now, and I'm very thankful for this. I went to church every Sunday, and I really embraced my, religious background, because to me, it made me who I am today. And I tell people, I said, Jesus is my best friend. He's the one, the one that I talk to whenever I really need the guidance. And so, I told my husband, I'm not doing anything wrong. I feel like I'm finally embracing myself and getting on my spiritual journey.
Yeah, and I know, and I don't know why some people feel like Jesus, if you come from that background, would be like against that, because if you read the teachings of Jesus, Jesus would totally embrace that. So yeah, I know people get very, when you're dealing with traditional religion, and then you're talking about spirituality, and you're talking about being psychic and psychically connected, people get very afraid of that. Like it's something that you're doing wrong. And I believe that, like I said, Jesus would be like totally like, yeah, let's go. What you got? You know what I mean? Like, absolutely.
Hey, I agree totally with you. And you know what? I always think I wish we had more information about when he was a kid. Because he probably was very intuitive. Of course, he was medium. And then you think, well, Mary to me was such a strong lady, to be able to raise Jesus. And I just wish I could go back in the time machine and see Jesus when he was little. And you're right, he had so much love. He was non-judgmental. And I just think, it's just a fear factor. It's afraid of the unknown.
It's afraid of the unknown. I know. I'm excited. I'm actually because my guest next week, Gregory Channels, so he's going to be bringing Mary forward. So it's interesting. I know, because we don't. We don't know anything about Jesus except for when he was born, and then when he became 33 or something. That's when you see Jesus reappear. Yeah. From what I remember.
Yeah.
Very
absolutely.
Cool. Well, now with your work today, and to the people that you're meeting, do you think more children are coming in today with natural psychic abilities than ever before? Or do you think it's just that now that it feels safer to talk about, more people are admitting it now than they ever did before?
I agree. It's because they feel safer, and I think it's beginning to open up, and I think people are having spiritual awakenings all over the place. And again, I think it came to COVID, because it actually happened in the 1960s, where Nancy Tate considered a lot of the children indigo children. She could see the purple auras around the children, and she considered them as warriors and fighters for what is right. So it's, we have indigo children, we have starseed children, we have crystal children and rainbow children. So it's been around for a long time.
Yeah, I know. I know my niece and nephew are one of those. I don't know which ones, but they are definitely one. My my nephew is on the spectrum, and he, especially when he was really little, we used to see him looking at, I don't know. He was seeing stuff that my sister and my mother and we were convinced there was an entity, a spirit, something that he was having a communication with, that he could still see because, especially when they're really little, they're still so connected, right? They're still connected to that other world. And we would be like, who's Enzo talking to him? Like, what's going on? But it's nice coming from a family, my family, we're very open to that kind of stuff. So for us, it's not like, oh, what are you talking about? Like it doesn't scare us. And I want to know, like, your experience with, what does an intuitive child look like? I mean, what are parents coming to you experiencing?
You know what? And again, it's a lot of the fear factor. When their child starts feeling the energy in the room, in their bedroom, and they become afraid of it, or they can't sleep because, grandmother's trying to talk to them, that is a lot of what I hear, is that they're just afraid to be in the bedroom by themselves because they can feel everything, and the parents don't know what to do. And this, of course, is for the younger children. Now, when I say younger, probably around 5 or so. Now, when they're younger, they're not afraid of it. They're having a good time with grandma and grandpa and having a conversation with their imaginary friend. But, what you were talking about with your autism, is it your nephew, did you say?
My nephew, he's on the spectrum.
I agree totally, because while I was doing research for the book, my specialty is working with children with autism.
Okay, and I want to hear all about that.
Okay,
so let's take our break here, and then let's talk about that, and we're going to get right into psychic and intuitive children. So stay tuned, guys. Be back in 2 minutes.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hi, I'm Melissa Caprio from Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave. Do you believe in magic? What if I told you all you had to do was get a little creative and work a dream spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Well, guess what? I've got the spell for you. Postcards to the Universe, a global movement for manifestation, is a casting magical tool for you to use whenever you want. How does living in passion sound to you? Join me in my movement where you get to create in the magical playground. Let's think outside the box and do some playful conjuring. By casting out our desires with a manifesting postcard, we explore our hearts and allow the alchemy of our dreams to appear. And don't forget to tune in each week here on OMTimes Radio with my show, Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I share tips on creativity, abundance, and prosperity, and you will be introduced to the coolest guests, trailblazers, mystics, and creatives who enrich our lives.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
The rainbow is God's promise of hope for you and me. And though the clouds hang heavy and the sun we cannot see, we know above the dark clouds that fill the stormy sky, hope's rainbow will come shining through when the clouds have drifted by. Teresa Caprio is the president and founder of Rainbow Guardian Inc., a nonprofit 501c3 serving the intellectually challenged/developmentally disabled, including autism. Teresa started the foundation in 1995 so she could help make a better life for her intellectually challenged daughter. Her dream is that the Rainbow Guardian will provide the necessary tools and education to help the public understand the special needs population, because it's often discarded in mainstream society. To find out more or make a donation in support, please go to www.rainbowguardian.org. Rainbow Guardian's special mission is to see these unique people live a happy, full life and have a future of liberty and equality.
Welcome back. So if you're just joining me, I have psychic medium Michelle Henderson on, and today we're focusing on spiritual nurturing for intuitive children, psychic children. So right before the break, we were talking, you were saying that you worked with children on the spectrum, autistic children. And what were you going to say when I'm sorry I had to interrupt you to go to commercial?
Oh, no worries. I mean, we need those
Good.
commercial breaks too to take a break and think.
Exactly.
So no worries. But yes, you were talking about how your nephew, who has been diagnosed under the spectrum, would look off in the distance. And oh my goodness, I saw that so many times when I was doing ABA therapy with children, is they would look off in the distance and they would start laughing. I'd say, "What are you laughing at?" So you know that they're looking at something. And while I was doing research, a lot of our children, everybody has spirit guides. And we know that they have angels that are protecting them and their spirit guides, their deceased relatives. Everybody is surrounding them, especially a child who has special needs. And so I know that they can see who is present. When I was doing research, I also came across, as we were talking about the different groups of children, the Starseed children, and there is a group, the Crystal children. And they were born around where autism just skyrocketed, whenever the percentages kept going up and up and up. And they were known to be, a lot of these children are diagnosed with autism and telepathic abilities. And whenever I saw that, I'm thinking, when I did therapy with these children, a lot of them, I knew exactly what they needed. It was almost like we were talking. I mean, they were nonverbal, and we were talking telepathically. So I went, that makes perfect sense. I just loved it. And that's why I loved working with children under the spectrum, is because I could really connect with their energy and know exactly what they were needing. But as I was thinking, and I don't mean to develop another group, but I just felt compelled to say that I think our new generation of children also are called kaleidoscope children.
Kaleidoscope? Is that what you said?
Kaleidoscope. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Because whenever you look through a kaleidoscope, you're seeing the different geometric patterns. And these children can see it, especially ones under the spectrum. They can see different high frequencies of energy and light. They can see the different colors in our Earth's realm and energy. And I think they can see a lot of the sacred geometry that we cannot see. So I think they're really in tune, and these children are brilliant. Many of them are so brilliant that we need them, to survive, because they're developing all this technology that we need. Where would we be today without these highly intelligent children? And I think they are so connected in with spirit. They're comfortable, and they're just love, even though they may have some social issues, being able to socialize, they are just, their energy is just awesome. But yeah, so that's what I was going to tell you about working with children. And there is actually a psychic medium who is working professionally, and he was diagnosed as Asperger's. And William Stillman. And he talks about his journey of being someone under the spectrum and connecting in quite a bit. I know he's got a series of books as well.
Oh, that's really interesting. I'd like to check that out too. That's so interesting. Yeah, you can tell with my nephew. He He looks at things differently. He was always side-eyeing, always looking out the side of his eye. Looks like to look at certain things upside down. He's listens to things in a different way. The way he holds up something he's listening to. So we know that his brain, he's super smart. I mean, we know his brain is processing things differently than mine or yours, or the rest of us that are around him. And it's interesting. Yeah, it's really, really interesting to see how this is manifesting, like you said, with all these kids coming through now that are on the spectrum, like these kaleidoscope children or star children or crystal children or whatever they are. It's just, I do think they're going to be coming with the new technology that's going to help us probably save the planet, truthfully.
That'd be awesome.
Because we haven't done such a good job. So
and they're going, thanks a lot. Leave it at us. Anyway.
Right. Right.
And I know a lot of times these families do, especially children under the spectrum. It is a difficult life many times because they do have so many needs and sensory overload. And, there again, you think about Jesus and Mary. Mary probably had a lot of difficulties as well. And
that makes sense. Never thought about that.
Yeah, so I'm thinking these parents are like Mary.
There you go. That's interesting. I like that. I like that. I like that thought a lot. So do parents come to you, Michelle, and say, my kid is telling me they're talking to, their grandparents who have passed over or relatives. It's freaking me out. I need your help. What do I do? Yes.
And that's so common. And so many times, and it depends on each family. So when a family comes, I'll have to see, well, do I need to really work with you month to month, or is this just a one-time, talk session? Because these families need to know, well, we need to be in control. How can we be in control? So I teach them how to do that and give them strategies. And because these children and families need to know, if I don't like what's going on, I can tell whatever to go away and so forth. And it's really important for everybody who are working with these families to know what religion or what aspect of spirituality that these families are in, because you need to approach it from helping them from that point of view. Because we're not trying to change their thought process. We're just trying to help them, realize what is going on and what they can do about it. And a lot of times, just as simple as a child in a family need to do it together to get crystals or sage, and do some clearing in the house. And that way, the energy feels so much more light. And I don't mean about trying to get the evil energy out or anything. I'm just talking about clearing the energy. Sometimes you just need that. And if a child does it, then they feel like they're in control. And they can either, with a sage, they can say a prayer or they can set an intention. So little tools like that families don't think about will really help them. And crystals really help too, because kids love rocks, especially when they're younger. They love rocks and they love the power of it. But when they become teenagers is when it becomes a little bit more difficult, because the social norms and society kind of get in the way sometimes. And, they get embarrassed and they don't want to talk about it. And they definitely won't talk about it with their parents. So that's when it's nice to have a third party come in.
Yeah. Well, is there any crystal that you recommend that a child who is, has a lot of psychic abilities, maybe to help ground them, that they should have maybe in their bedroom or they can put under their mattress to sort of help them?
Absolutely. And what I always tell parents too is go to like a holistic store and let the child, go. And that's even with adults. We have to have the crystals, I want to say, almost call to us.
Right.
That kind of thing. But what I usually, and there's several crystals that I've listed and I've done a lot of research on, but the one thing that really calms the children is the amethyst. I can pronounce these right. I don't need to be live and trying to pronounce these, but an amethyst.
Amethyst, okay.
Yes,
I love amethyst.
yes,
I
it's
love
what.
amethyst.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
so because it's very spiritual, and it has that vibration that kids really have, and so they can also keep that. They can put it in jewelry. They can put it in their pocket. I had a friend that put a crystal in their child's backpack, so to protect them when they were at school. So, which is really, really cool. I'm trying to think of another one. Chariot, if I'm pronouncing that right, really helps children that are anxious about what is going on. It's got a calming energy to it.
Okay. Yeah. As I've gotten more into this kind of, work as I've gotten older, I always loved crystals. Like I always just thought they were beautiful, but I never really worked with crystals. But now that I'm understanding them more and more, I do I'll put different crystals under my mattress at certain times for certain reasons. So yeah, I'm really finding the ground, that crystals can really ground you and the energetic vibration, because now that I know that everything is vibration, it makes total sense that of course crystals would hold their own vibration, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know we just learn, as
go
we
ahead.
go.
No, go ahead. Oh, we learn as we go. Right.
Yeah. Yes.
Now I have a question about, are you finding, because these children are so young and so innocent and so open, maybe, are children having issues with being psychically attacked? I don't know if attacked is the right word, or harassed, or, something that's maybe causing them, it's not very helpful. It's causing them a lot of stress and fear. Is that happening?
No, not what I'm seeing. What I'm seeing
good.
is spirit is very loving, that it's nothing to be afraid of.
Okay.
That the fear of the unknown, once again, and the intention of working with higher vibration spirits, and usually kids do. They work with the angels, and they again work with higher vibrations. So I think a lot of times we put fear into it. And so I don't think they're being spiritually attacked. I just think they're getting overwhelmed and getting anxious.
Okay.
Now,
so
if they're seeing
teenagers, well, teenagers have their own challenges. But I was thinking, I don't know if a lot of spirits, if they happen to be medium children, because not all psychics are mediums. There's, so they're not always connecting with the other side. I didn't know if some of these children are getting bombarded with spirits from the other side, and maybe some of them aren't so kind, so it's doing a number on them,
Right. And, and if the child does feel that way, and, and I can see it happening, feeling that they're being, then you do show them how to protect themselves with energy. And so you walk them through the different exercises. But what I was going to say with teenagers, sometimes if they're not accepted with their abilities, they'll start exploring. So that's when the, Ouija boards come out and their intentions are not, to the greater good. And so they get sometimes in these lower vibrations. And so sometimes with experimenting can do more harm than good. And so that's when, it's really good to educate them, to say, do you really want to go down this pathway?
Right.
And
that's when my Ouija board came out when I was a young teen.
We all
very prepubescent teenager. That's what. Now I'm no way, but that's when mine came out. That's funny that you say that.
Right. And whenever I did it, I had my puppy right next to me, and my dog started barking, and I said, "That I am definitely done." So that scared me. I said, "I am done with that."
So what are some of the challenges that come with raising psychic children?
Just, parents not knowing what to do. They begin to think that, well, is my child schizophrenic? Are they hearing voices? Is this something behavior going on? So they think that it's going to be something totally different than spiritual. So they'll go from doctor to doctor, medicine to medicine. And a lot of the kids that do connect as mediums and they talk to spirit, loved ones who have passed over, they can be diagnosed as being schizophrenic and given medicine. So that's the fear a lot of times, that I see, that they're looking for concrete answers when it's actually just spiritual. And they go for, I think a lot of times parents actually have these abilities as well, and they've probably been afraid of it all their life and not knowing what to do. So again, it's from generation to generation. So I think we need to break that and say, this is not something to be afraid of. This is something that we nurture and embrace for our kids.
Yeah. It's funny that you said schizophrenic, because I always think that. I always think when I hear somebody say they're schizophrenic, like if they're hearing voices, if it's that they just don't realize that they're so connected to the other side, that's right. What's coming through. And, and they've been classified like, I don't know, I live in a city, so I see more homeless people than living in the suburbs. So when I see somebody talking to themselves a lot or talking to somebody, I always wonder, and they're of course homeless and they've been diagnosed schizophrenic and they're on the streets and maybe self-medicating with drugs or whatever. I'm thinking maybe they're so connected to the other side and nobody's been able to help them figure that out and channel it in a different way. I always think that when somebody's schizophrenic, like, is that a possibility? Not that schizophrenia isn't real, because obviously it is.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
Yes.
But I'm just, that's a thought that crosses my mind. So it's interesting that you said that about kids.
Well, and there is some good research out there as well. Whenever they've done research with mediums who practice, as a medium, professionally medium, and then they've tested people who have been diagnosed with schizophrenic. And the research showed that when mediums connect in, they feel that spiritual energy, where people with schizophrenic, they are afraid of it, and it's more of anxiety, and it's not a good experience. So
that makes sense.
So yes.
Okay.
And it uses the same part of the brain.
Yeah, it uses interesting. Okay, so we're going to take our second break here, and then there's lots more that I want to ask you when we come back. So guys,
okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Be back in a couple.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Imagine yourself being transported to India, to the banks of the Ganga and an ashram in Rishikesh. Visualize that you are welcome to satsang with an American sannyasi who shares the wisdom of her guru. Your visualization has manifested. Join Sattvi Bhagawati Saraswati for inspiration and transformation every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Hi, I'm Melissa Caprio from Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave. Do you believe in magic? What if I told you all you had to do was get a little creative and work a dream spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Well, guess what? I've got the spell for you. Postcards to the Universe, a global movement for manifestation, is a casting magical tool for you to use whenever you want. How does living in passion sound to you? Join me in my movement where you get to create in the magical playground. Let's think outside the box and do some playful conjuring. By casting out our desires with a manifesting postcard, we explore our hearts and allow the alchemy of our dreams to appear. And don't forget to tune in each week here on OMTimes Radio with my show, Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I share tips on creativity, abundance, and prosperity, and you will be introduced to the coolest guests, trailblazers, mystics, and creatives who enrich our lives.
Coping 19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
If you're feeling increasingly lonely right now, you're not alone. It's totally normal. Even though we may not be able to get together in person, connecting virtually with friends and family still gives you a chance to interact with people and may help raise your spirits. Join a virtual book club, set up group text chats, or online video coffee breaks with coworkers.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
Welcome back. So, Michelle, my question is for parents who are seeing their kids and they know their kids are maybe a little different and maybe seeing spirits or maybe not seeing spirits, but they can tell they know things that maybe they shouldn't know, they're in touch, they're intuitive, they're psychic, and they just don't know how to handle it. What would you recommend parents, or the first thing that parents should do?
I really think that they need to be educated themselves. Mm-hmm. So they need to go to a metaphysical store. Maybe they can find somebody that will work with them, find a medium, psychic medium who is, giving services, and, to help the family just to find the information. Because with me, I felt so much better after I realized what was going on. Education is key. To find it. And they just need to find out where they are drawn to. So find somebody that they can trust and to help them through the journey. And just to realize, just like anything else for your child, you would go and find some information about and get help.
Sure.
So,
because I notice that kids have a tendency to, if they go to their parents and their parents shut them down or shame them or are afraid, children will then become secretive and they don't trust anymore that that's safe for them, right? So then they'll go outside, they'll go elsewhere. So you don't want to do that, especially, you want your child to feel that they can trust you and go to you. So I think that that's really important, not to shut them down. Even if you don't understand it and you think, woohoo, or they, God, you're scared. Is my kid going a little nuts? At least be open, I think, to hearing it and saying, let me at least think about this. And like you said, do a little research on your own.
Absolutely. And I love how you just stated that. You need to listen to your child. And like you said, don't just brush it off. Really listen to them and see how you can help them. Because, the younger kids, they don't judge. They don't know what's going on, and they're having a great time. It's the parents a lot of times that will change that.
Right. And your book, Spiritual Nurturing for Intuitive Children, you break it down in your book, and it's a great book for parents to help them. Guide them in the journey, right? You have some, you want to share us a few tips that you talk about in your book for parents?
Absolutely. And parents can also read it, but it's also geared for people who are working with these families, light workers, teachers, anybody out there. Parents can read it as well because it's got a lot of good exercises that they can do with their child to embrace their gifts and increase their gifts and to get some awareness. But it's a guidebook it's almost like parent training, I guess you could say. So it teaches, how somebody can come into a family's home and say, okay, let me ask you specific questions so I know where to start. And it's like anything else, you've got to plan it. You've got to know what you're going to teach the family, what exercises you're going to teach the family, what knowledge each family needs so that they can continue on with this journey. And it may change from year to year, that kind of thing. But it really just guides them. And then at the very end, there's some case studies that they can look at and go, what would you do? It gives a child's profile of what the child is going through and what the family's going through. And it's like, what would you do? And then there's some examples what somebody could do with the family and what family service plan that they could develop.
Okay. That's good. That's really good. It's like you said, like if your child is interested in, learning a new language, right? You would go and you didn't know the language, you would find somebody to help them learn how to speak Spanish or Mandarin or Russian, whatever it is, right? So if you have a
Yes.
child who's coming to you and saying, Mom, Dad, I'm talking to Grandma, Grandpa, I
Yeah.
see them or I hear them, you might be like,
Right.
okay, well, maybe I should find somebody to help me. Without, obviously revealing anything personal and private, do you have any examples of some instances of some experiences psychic children have gone through or are experiencing?
Well, okay, so I'll tell you about a little girl that I talked to the other day
Okay.
at a school, and it was very interesting because, and this is actually a good thing. It's not one that I really talked to the parent. She just came to me. Spirit just has a way to do that. And
Sure.
she came. We were doing something together, and she all of a sudden brought up. She goes, "My sister's died," and I went, okay. I said, did you know your sister? And she said, no, she died when she was 20. And I said, oh, okay. And you could kind of tell that I just knew that she's talking to her sister. You just know that, that kind of thing. And and I think she was waiting to see how I would respond. And I
Right.
told her, I just felt like I needed to say, your sister will always be your sister. And she just grinned at that. So, so something that subtle like that, that she's got the ability. She may not use it or strengthen it, but it's just something that's just so enlightening and so spiritual. But
Yeah, she
but
probably
yeah,
was feeling you out a little too,
yes,
right? Because
I
that's what they
agree
do.
totally.
Yeah.
But things like that can happen in just the way that you respond. And again, and I think a lot of times children may not want to talk about it. So that's why you do creative things like, okay, let's create a video. Show me what happened, what you're experiencing. And they can get puppets. They can, use different things, toys to show you what's been going on. And so they may not know how to express it. So you've got to find a creative way where they feel comfortable talking about it. Because I found out a lot of these kids will shut down and they don't, they're afraid of the response that they will receive.
Yeah, especially when they become prepubescent and teenagers, they shut down. They have a tendency to shut down their parents anyway, So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a very precarious time. It's delicate, the formula about
Yes, it is.
about dealing with children. So if you have a children who feels different than their friends because maybe they know something like is going to happen and they can see it because they're psychic, and then it happens, it could scare the heck out of them, really.
Oh, absolutely. And that happens.
Yeah.
Yes. And what I love about these kiddos is they are so creative. That's when you start seeing the hair change, purple, pink, rainbow.
Yeah.
They are so
Right.
creative. And so a lot of people, too, tend to say, well, they're creative, they're imagining it. And again, listen to these kids. They're here to help us, connect in and to show us spirituality is so important for us to actually have. Because if you don't go to church and you're not really looking spiritual, you're missing something in your life. And that's when a lot of times you get depressed and feel alone. And I think these kids are showing us there's actually something out there that's bigger than ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure you probably have heard some incredible psychic stories from some of these kids that you're probably like, wow, that the fact that they have certain abilities. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, I wish I could do that. I wish I could be that because they are so strong when they're younger.
Yeah, before the world takes a hold of them and they shut, because we naturally shut things down, right? We shut our vulnerabilities down. We shut ourselves down because especially children, we just want to fit in, right? We want to fit in with everybody else, right? We don't want to stand out and everybody be like, I hate to use this, but it's the truth. Like the movie Carrie. I don't know if you ever, the book Carrie in the movie, Stephen King's Carrie. You remember? Like, because she was, right. So,
yes.
Go ahead.
And she was picked, and she was picked on too. I mean, she was bullied.
Yeah, she was bullied.
Yeah, so a lot of these, yes, absolutely. And that's when we need to really protect these kiddos. And I know that now most schools have bullying, procedures that they're supposed to do, but it still happens. But you're right. We need to protect them. But I think it's getting more accepted. And I think the kids are going, how cool it is, because now we have, superhero movies.
Right.
And we have Harry Potter, So
exactly.
Yes.
Do you think that it's going to become more mainstream? I mean, I already see it's happening a little bit in pockets and stuff, but do you think overall it's going to become like second nature, like maybe 50 years from now, like people are going to be like, oh yeah, what's your psychic ability? What's your intuition?
Absolutely. And I think we're going to have to learn how to not invade somebody else's privacy, because that can be done so easily. And so I think we're going to have other problems to deal with. But I agree totally. I think we're definitely opening up.
That's really interesting. I didn't think about it like that, but you're right, because if you're so psychic that you can be in touch with what's going on with somebody else, you may be invading their privacy.
Absolutely. And a lot of mediums, like you see on TV, they'll stop people and say, "Oh, I have your grandmother here." That is invading someone's privacy right there. Of course, that's all staged, but as a medium, you do not do that. You have to ask permission for them, if you can do it.
Yes, I've heard that. I've heard that you see that for TV. It's kind of like a setup already, but in reality, you wouldn't go up to somebody and say, "Oh, your dad's here with me." You wouldn't just do that. Yeah, right. That makes sense.
Right.
Now, do you work with families one-on-one? If somebody's listening right now and says, I could use some guidance and help, they could reach out to you and you could work with their with the family?
Yes. So it's on my website. It explains about the service and everything. And so they can go to my website and read about it. They absolutely. And it's basically the same, everything I follow in the book, I do the exact same thing.
Okay. So then you work with you could work with them like in sessions, is that kind of thing?
Yes.
Is that,
absolutely.
Okay.
And it's great about technology. You can do that over Zoom now. You don't have to be in someone's home.
I know.
So, yeah.
And that is the good thing about technology. Yeah, you can do that. Right.
And I give them homework, so they're going to have homework. Things to do.
That's good. Like, what would be a homework assignment? Like, what would be like
Okay, well, like what we were talking about, if the child is really geared towards crystals and wants to, look at crystals, they need to, for that week, they need to find a crystal that the child really likes and leviates towards. Or if a child is seeing auras around people, to draw it, on paper and talk about what each color means to them. So little things like that.
Yeah, well, that doesn't sound too bad. That sounds like fun homework. People do see, or there are a lot of people that see auras and orbs and all that kind of stuff around other people. That's interesting. Yeah, a lot of people do see that. So now, since you're a psychic medium, how do you read for people? Like if somebody came to you and said, "I would love to connect with, a spouse that passed away or a parent," can they do that?
Absolutely. I do both. I do psychic readings and mediumship readings. So I do both.
Okay.
So psychic readings is, about that person, about you, and then mediumship is connecting with a loved one. So I do both, yes.
You do both. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, so if somebody could book an appointment with you if they wanted to connect to somebody, and interesting. Have you had some really wild people come through, like wild experiences, from others some clients who have come to you?
I love how you put that. Have you had? Yeah. So.
I want to ask questions without you revealing anything personal. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like in
right,
general.
right.
So yeah.
Well, most mediumship is so healing that a lot of times, you know, I don't really judge it per se, but I did have one client whose stepdad came in, and she did not like her stepdad. And I said, well, do you want me not to bring him through? And she said, no, he always comes through. I need to know what he wants. But she would look at me like I was evil, like she was about to pounce on me. And I'm going, I promise it's not me, it's him that's talking, you know, that kind of thing. But I think I healed her because she became one of my best clients. She would bring people to me after that. But yeah, so, and you've got to, you know, really watch. And I feel for these parents who lose children. A lot of times they're not ready for a reading and they'll still contact me. And so I kind of have to walk through, you know, maybe it's not a right time at the moment for you.
Yeah.
But it is all in the healing. That's what we strive for.
Yeah, I find it so fascinating, mediumship, truthfully. Yeah, and I must be really, for when parents lose a child, they're so desperate, I'm sure, to talk to their child that they lost that. Yeah, but they may not be ready for it. It makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Well,
yeah,
Michelle,
they can't receive it. Anyway, yes.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure. Oh my God, I loved it. Okay, guys, if you want to know more about Michelle, go to her website, michellehendersonmedium.com, and check out her book, Spiritual Nurturing for Intuitive Children. Thank you for listening to Postcards to the Universe with Melissa, creating the life you crave. And of course, I'm wishing everyone a wonderful week filled with joy, abundance, and love. Peace.